For Rabbi Israel Salanta, the aha moment happened on his way home one evening. On the walk, he passed a shoe repair shop and saw the shoemaker working by a flickering candle late into the night. Rabbi Salanta asked, "Working so late?" The shoemaker responded, "As long as the candle is still burning, there is still time to make repairs." Rabbi Salanta was stunned by the man's reply. He replayed those words on his walk home in his mind. He replayed them in his sleep at night. He replayed them as he went about his business the next day. As long as the candle is still burning, there is still time to make repairs. What it meant to Rabbi Salanta is that as long as the light of our soul still burns, there is still a chance to improve oneself and grow closer to the Creator. Every tradition has a mindfulness guru. Rabbi Israel Salanta, the founder of the 19th century Musar movement in Lithuania, is ours. Rabbi Salanta developed contemplative practices and techniques to nurture our spiritual and ethical discipline. He fashioned means to ignite the light spark of our souls so that the inner journey of our lives would transform our outer behavior and practice. As long as we live, inner transformation is possible. We can move towards the better of ourselves, to whom we are meant to be. The story of Abraham and Isaac, the Rosh Hashanah morning Torah reading, is a moment of transformation, of lives and destinies changed forever. Abraham is tested with the behest to sacrifice his son Isaac on Mount Moriah. Abraham follows God's directive. He rises early the following day, sets off with his son and his servants and all the accoutrements needed for the offering. He and his son alone ascend the mountain for the purpose of the sacrifice. And just as Abraham raises his knife in hand to sacrifice his bound son, an angel calls out, halting the proceedings. God makes a vow to him that because he went through with this deed and did not withhold his son, he is to be blessed in subsequent generations. This is an uncomfortable story of transformation. Abraham is transformed from a doting father to one whose judgment we might question, willing to risk his son's life. The servants are transformed into bystanders who may suspect foul play but choose to not interfere by remaining behind. And Isaac is transformed into the passive follower of his father's will, even at the risk of his own life. Theologians who seek to justify this troubling plotline speak about the deep, deep faith of the cast of characters. Abraham, the servants, Isaac are willing to go to an extreme precipice of ritual murder in their passive obedience to God who spoke directly to Abraham. What faith! We as moderns, looking at this narrative, ask a different question. If I told you to go jump off a cliff, would you go and do it? Good. Our biblical characters are transformed because God authors this troubling and life-changing plot. For us who wrestle with faith in the Western world, and to whom God is a mystery, and to whom God does not speak directly, the plot line of pliant obedience is troubling. We question the all-knowing God leading the blind. In our lives, God does not speak to us directly. We do not hear words of commandment or dialogue, yet we go through life-changing transformations also in a manner that is blind. Too often, we do not question the transformations that happen hour to hour, day to day, year to year in our existence. We just live destiny where it lands in our lives. Our life is full of circumstances which shape the plot lines of our being. It reminds me of the well-known children's book by Judith Vorst, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Alexander is having one of those days where everything goes wrong. He goes to sleep with his mouth open, and there's gum in his hair in the morning. At counting time, he leaves out the number 16. Every other kid gets dessert in their lunchbox except him, and his bath is too hot, and he gets soap in his eyes. All day, circumstances happen to him, shaping his terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. And as each calamity occurs, he bemoans his misfortune and expresses his desire to escape his life for the ideal of Australia. In the end, with the help of his mother, he's transformed by the realization of perspective, that some days are just like that. Circumstances just happen, good or bad. And Alexander, as an Australian, I could have told you, some days are really just like that wherever you are, wherever you live, even in Australia. Some people are more theological than young Alexander about the plot line of their lives. They see the hand of God shaping our existence, even though God does not talk to us directly. On Slichot, the Saturday night service before Rosh Hashanah, we read the famous Yom Kippur poem in Gates of Forgiveness. As clay takes form in a potter's hand, so do we in yours. Mold us into human form. You are the potter. We are but clay. The beautiful images of this poem suggest that God is not just the potter that molds us, but the poet that writes our song, the sailor that steers our ship, the weaver that designs the patterns of our lives. The approaches, the circumstances that happen to us, as did Alexander's misfortunes, or if God is the ultimate author of our life and we let go, let God, depreciates the power of our free will and our capacity to be active participants in the transformation of our own lives. As long as the light of our soul still burns, there is still a chance to improve ourselves in a mindful manner. Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of a time of reflection and mindfulness transformation. We are given 10 days to rethink, reevaluate, find perspective, and take control of our own destiny. Several years ago, the Huffington Post published an article by Mauricio Estrella entitled, "How a Password Changed My Life." He was having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. His wife had just decided to leave him. And that morning he was running late, he was sweaty, and he had had no time for breakfast. He walked into his office with a once every 30-day message popped onto his computer screen. "Your password has expired. Click Change Password to change your password." The message was the last straw. He had a list of things to get done before his 10 a.m. meeting. Every 30 days, having to come up with a password with at least one uppercase character, one lowercase character, one symbol, one number, at least 8 characters, and not the same password as he used in the last 3 months, seemed like an enormous waste of time. I can see many of you know his exasperation. And then it occurred to him to be mindful. He was going to use that password to change his life. He wrote capital F O R G I V E at H3R. Over the next month, he had to retype this password several times a day. Each time when his computer would lock up, when he was away from his desk after lunch to begin the workday. He wrote a password that read, "Forgive her," over and over. Remarkably, this impulsive act became a mindful act that changed his life. He began to view his ex-wife differently and started himself on a journey that was away from depression. By the second week, he found his anger was less and his mood started to lift. The healing effect by the end of the month was palpable. The next month, he changed his password to capital Q UIT at SMOKING 4 EVER. And he quit smoking. The next month, his password became capital S AVE 4 TRIP at capital THAILAND. And 3 months later, he took a vacation on his savings to Thailand. Mauricio Estrella began to look forward to the mindfulness of changing his password each month. The last password he notes 2 years after beginning this discipline. It was capital S, A, V, E, 4, at, R, I, N, G. And he noted that several months later, she said yes. Here we are at the beginning of the Jewish New Year. Our past words and actions have expired. It is time for our apologies, reset, our chance to improve our lives in a mindful manner. The words of our Machzor, our high holiday prayer book, over the next 10 days are the past words and actions reset reminder. Rabbi Israel Salanta, our Jewish mindfulness guru, replayed the shoemaker's words in his mind over and over. As long as the candle is still burning, there is still time to make repairs. It is never too late for us to change our lives, to improve ourselves, to start anew, to reset our past words and actions. As long as we live, inner transformation is possible. We can move towards the better selves we are meant to be. The time to begin is now.